Facebook or on the recording, feel free to hide yourself, but we're all beautiful. Okay, this looks like Facebook's gonna go. That's good. And then I'm gonna do the recording for Zoom. Okay, so I generally start with announcements. First of all, thanks a lot, everybody, for coming. I'm Dana Sargent, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the director of Cape Fear River Watch. And we generally do announcements of what's up and coming. First of all, the annual membership meeting is up and coming. That will be coming up Sunday, November 14th at 4 p.m. If you're on our email list, which you should be, you've gotten the information for that. You need to register for that with the Zoom registration. So just click that little thing and then you'll get an email that says you're signed up. That's open to everyone. We kind of do a run through, sort of a year in review with Kemp of all the things that we've done this year, and then we vote, those that are members vote on the upcoming slate of board members for the 2022 year cycle beginning 2022. And those are open to everyone. We encourage you to join, even if you've not joined Cape Fear River Watch, feel free to come to that meeting. It might help, gauge your interest in whether or not you want to become a member of Cape Fear River Watch. Other than that, there's been a ton of things happening in the PFAS land. We're trying to keep everybody updated on all that through our social media and through our email. If you're not on our newsletter, please do get on it. It's just visit capefearriverwatch.org and click the little thing that says join our mailing list. We send out one email. We're switching that up. We're doing it now every other week, but we're making it a little bit more of a deeper dive. So we're putting a calendar up top instead of having each event be its separate thing. It's just kind of a cleaner calendar. And then we're digging deeper into the advocacy stuff. We've got Kemp's been doing so much stuff relative to CAFOs. And together we're working a lot on PFAS, and there's just been so much stuff happening. So we've been kind of providing a little bit more information in those e-newsletters, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on those. So I'm going to leave it at that. Please just sign up for the newsletter to keep up with all we're doing. Obviously, we have Second Saturday Cleanup coming up again next week. The paddle series is not happening. November is usually the end. We're not doing that. So that'll start up in March for the third Saturday. Fourth Saturday, we have the book club, which is run by one of our board members, Shantae, which is just a great thing. That's all I'm going to say right now for announcements. And I'm going to leave it up to Paul to introduce our speaker, Paul Smith, our board member.
Thank you, Dana. Good morning, everyone. Our speaker this morning is Brayton Willis, who is a civil environmental graduate engineer of Northeastern University, as we can tell from his sweatshirt, I gather. There you go. He's a retired senior project manager and strategic planner at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He currently serves on the Town of Leland's Economic Development Committee, formerly served as a member of the Wilmington Metropolitan Planning Organization Citizens Advisory Committee for the 2045 Regional Transportation Plan Update. Now there's a mouthful. As a member of the Town of Leland Transportation Oversight Committee and Town of Holden Beach Planning and Zoning Board. He served as chairman and now advisor to the Brunswick County branch of the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. He's a life member of the NAACP, and most importantly, is a Marine Corps veteran. Semper Fi, Ura, and happy birthday. He also wants us to know that he's married to an extraordinary woman and partner, Debbie, herself, a North Carolina State graduate, civil engineer, and retired U.S. Army Corps of Engineers senior project manager. And she's also a recipient of the State of North Carolina Order of the Longleaf Pine. They have 3 children, 2 flourishing grandchildren, a therapy dog named Fenway, who may introduce himself in a bit, and a sailboat named Scarlet. Welcome, Mr. Willis. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. And if we can do a screen share here.
Yeah. I think you should be able to now.
I think I've got it. And I'm going to just put this in the presentation mode. If it works with me. Oh. I have got, hold on, just a little bit of a hang up here. I need to move my screen share over. I'm going to stop and I'm going to bring it back in. Okay, well, let's see if this works better. Again, well,
I think
Can
if
you-
you click the slideshow up on top, you might be able to do it from that way. I know there's always been issues with this with the,
well, can you see the screen?
yeah, we can see that.
Okay, we'll work with that.
Okay.
So I just really want to thank you all for inviting me to come to speak today. We're working on a pretty important and I think fun project over in Brunswick County. And it seems like every time I turn around, the project gets bigger and bigger, and we start to develop a larger and larger group of people who are interested in the North Carolina Gullah Geechee. And so by way of introduction into the presentation, I break it down into three pieces. First, I do a quick primer on the Gullah Geechee and their culture, very quick, and then I talk quickly about what a Greenway and Blueway is, and you'd be surprised how many folks don't know what a Blueway is, but I'm pretty sure that you folks do. And then I'll get into the presentation itself about where we're at with the Greenway Blueway Trail in there we go. Did that slide advance in your screens?
Yes.
Can you see the three pieces there? Okay,
Yep.
good. Thank you. Well, stepping into the Gullah Geechee and where they came from, how they got here, and some of the challenges that they faced. If you look at this screen, we refer to the Middle Passage as an era between 1501 and 1867, where about 12.5 million enslaved people were taken from Western Africa, principally, and brought across the Atlantic to the North America, South America, and the Caribbean islands for the purpose of developing plantations, growing rice, cotton, and other products in these areas. It was a sad event. If you take a look at the section of the boat, you can see people stacked in there like cordwood. Typically 18 inches or all the room that they had to move around in there. The men were chained 23 hours a day. They were stacked multiple levels, and the women and children were not chained in those particular passages. Roughly 10.7 million actually made it across during that time period. And a quick number, about nearly 400,000 were transported directly to North America. I was able to get these diagrams. These are really good illustrations of where the enslaved people came from. In my research, I was able to nail down approximately 20 major tribes that these folks came from. Each of those tribes spoke different languages. When you think about being enslaved, you were pretty much torn from your family, stripped of everything you had. The only thing that you had coming across to the Americas would be what you had that you could do with your hands, what you had in your heart, and what you had in your mind. That was it. And so from these 20 different tribes that I was able to count, they had a communication issue. They had to be able to speak amongst themselves. And so that, along with speaking to their new owners, English owners in many cases, they developed what we call the Gullah Geechee language, the Gullah language. And it's sort of a Creole-based language, and you still hear it today dominantly down in the southernmost states like South Carolina. You'll hear it in the Gulf states quite a bit. And in this particular slide, the size of the arrows depict the numbers of people that were enslaved from West Africa. So the larger the arrow, the more people were taken from a given area. This is a modern day map that represents where a lot of those folks came from. So you can refer to some of the modern countries where these folks were taken from. And by the way, I will share this presentation with you all so you can reach back and take a second look at it if you're interested. So from the regions, again, here, the larger the dot, the more people that were enslaved. And most of these people were either kidnapped, they were involved in human trading, they even were given by chiefs as tributes. And again, some of them were debtors, local criminals, and prisoners of tribal wars. So this is how these folks, the majority of these folks, were taken and brought across in the Middle Passage. I will say this, that the early folks that explored this area from Europe were the Portuguese, and they're the ones that started to gather all the knowledge and capabilities of the people along here, especially the rice growing folks from the Sierra Leone area up here in the upper left side. This is slide, it depicts all the different countries that were involved in the slave trade. The United States certainly was involved with it, the French, British, Dutch, and as I said earlier, the Portuguese really involved with the movement of enslaved into South America. 1807 was a certain important date in all of this, because that was when the slave trade was outlawed coming here to the United States. Unfortunately, even though it was outlawed, there was roughly 50,000 slaves that were still brought over until emancipation. Move this. Good. Another important thing that happened and really was the fuel that made enslaved Africans a very profitable adventure for the Europeans and North Americans and those in the Caribbeans were what they did in terms of trade. In Europe, they brought guns, clothing, rifles, and brought those down to and other goods down to Western Africa. Those were traded for Africans, enslaved Africans, which in turn went over to the Caribbean and actually South America as well, but and then to North America. And all of the raw materials that the enslaved people were working on in their plantations were then exported to Europe and to the Boston area, and then turned into manufactured goods. So that was the triangle of trade that occurred during that period of time. As we zoom into our area along the Cape Fear River, this is an old map that I was able to pick up that talked about or depicted where all of the old rice plantations were. There might be a couple of peanut plantations in here as well, but principally the rice plantations along the Cape Fear River. If you go to the right, that's north. If you go to the left, it's south. And I put a red dot on all of these. There's approximately 70 of these rice plantations that not only go along the east and west side of the Cape Fear River, but out there along the ocean side a little bit where they could get fresh water. And there's a couple missing up around Eagles Island. I believe that there were 3 on Eagles Island. My research had shown that, but I didn't get red dots on those, so I might be missing a couple there. And I'll talk about Eagles Island here in a little bit. Well, getting back to what the Gullah Geechee people brought certainly their language was unique. And I explained to you that it was a challenge for them to figure out how to communicate with their owners and how to communicate to one another. But also, if you've been down to Charleston, you may have seen the grass baskets. Well, those grass baskets that they make today really were of a necessity back in the period when they were working on the plantations. Their weavings and all of their work with textiles as well were an important part of their culture. Foodways. I'm a big fan of okra and rice. Well, that's something that the Gullah Geechee, the West Africans, brought with them. As I mentioned earlier, peanuts as well. And then those foodways were mixed with the Native Americans with corn, squash, tomatoes, and berries. And then lastly, the music, an important feature of what the Gullah brought to our area. You can hear a lot of that music portrayed in gospel, ragtime, and even up to current day jazz. It all has a base from the Gullah Geechee people. So they brought a heck of a lot to our American culture that still exists today. And because of that, in 2006, Congress recognized the Gullah Geechee by establishing a national heritage area called the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor. It goes all the way from Jacksonville, North Carolina, down to Jacksonville, Florida, a little bit under 500 miles. It's about 12,818 square miles. It goes 30 miles from the coast inland. And that box in the upper right-hand corner, that's Brunswick County. Our entire county resides within that corridor. And so the purpose of Congress recognizing it as an important historic area, heritage area, was principally because of all the things that I mentioned earlier, all the things that their culture brought to us here. So our effort started in February, in earnest, started in February of 2020. When I was working on the transportation issues here for the Wilmington Metropolitan Planning Organization, as well as doing my work on environmental justice, I noticed there was very, very little recognition of the Gullah Geechee corridor and the culture and heritage in this area. So I approached the president of our branch and I said, look, we've got to do something to resurrect and celebrate, preserve and protect and celebrate the culture of the Gullah Geechee in this area. And so we proposed to develop a 30-mile multi-use Greenway Blueway trail that would go from Navassa down to Southport. And I'm kind of going to brag a little bit. This little logo down here in the lower right-hand corner is brand new. You people are one of the first to see it. We just launched this a couple of weeks ago. So we're kind of proud that we got that far. Developing logos is a tricky thing. Well, so we've got that there. But one of the things that, and this is interesting, I get a lot of questions about, well, what is a greenway? And so I explained to them it's nothing more than a linear park where we can celebrate nature, culture, history. We can go out on bicycles, hike it, and it's a healthy way to enjoy our communities out there, and it creates a sense of place. Now, we know that greenways also can enhance values of property that are near them. So I use that as an introduction to explain to folks what a greenway is. And typically what we're trying to do with ours is to get people off the roads, get them on either a paved or a compacted gravel surface where they can, like I said, ride their bikes, hike, and do other recreational features out there. It's proven, and I have a little thing up there, $18 million in Teton County out in Wyoming. That was a number that was estimated of the value of their trails. That was done in 2011, so those are 2011 dollars. But it really does promote not only a healthy way of living, celebrating history and culture, but also brings economic benefit to areas as well. I don't think I need to tell you folks what a Blueway is. You guys are deeply engaged in water issues, and I know from speaking to folks that you guys have a kayak group that goes out. So we know what the benefits here of Blueways are. We are proposing to develop a Blueway as part of this entire effort. And so that brings me to where we have started and where we're going. This is a map that I put together. I realize that it may be a little bit hard to read, so I'll kind of walk you through it. The green line is the Greenway, and that Greenway here in Brunswick County goes from Navassa through Leland, Belleville, and it splits towards Battleship, and then it continues south downward along 211 all the way to Southport. The Blueway mirrors that along the edge of the Cape Fear River, again, all the way down to Southport. The red dots are connection points to the East Coast Greenway. Now, the East Coast Greenway just was recognized by our governor, signed into law as a state trail. So we're very fortunate to have that designation here, and our goal was to tie into this. And for those that are familiar with the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge Replacement Initiative, the 4 alternatives that are being proposed by NCDOT all include a 12-foot wide multi-use path that would connect Wilmington to Brunswick County. So that's kind of exciting. So our goals in this Greenway, Blueway certainly is educational outreach. With all the people that are coming in from various places, moving into our area, one of the things that they quite frequently ask me when I give these presentations, they want to know more about the Gullah Geechee. They've never heard about them. So that is one of the major goals of our effort here, is to do educational outreach. But another certainly important opportunity is economic development, especially coming out of the pandemic. This is a great opportunity for us to get folks, visitors, back into our restaurants and hotels and enjoy some of the history and outdoor healthy way of life that we've got here. Another thing that we work on is one of our goals is documentation and preservation of our history and getting that out to folks in a that they can go through, whether you're going to be on a bike or hiking or just sitting at your computer. And of course, promoting healthy living and protecting the environment and linking to the East Coast Greenway. And lastly, pedestrian and bicycle safety. Really, really important when we think of greenways. Survey was done in 2011. 16,000 people responded here in North Carolina, and to a T, these people wanted to see safer bike lanes, greenways, sidewalks, collector streets. And now we call them safe streets. And so I use this just to emphasize that this survey continues to this day in terms of people's interest in making interconnections to their communities, to their neighborhoods, and make them safer and actually instill a sense of place. Our folks up in Buncombe County sat down one day, and I don't expect you to read this, but they sat down and did a brainstorming event on the benefits of greenways, and they were all over the map with the benefits that they could derive from greenways. and they nailed it. Everything that we've talked about thus far was expressed in their brainstorming event: recreation, cultural, health and wellness, transportation, economic and environmental benefits. Now, our folks down in Georgia, South Carolina really do take advantage of the economic benefits. They are working to develop foodways in terms of restaurants and venues like that. Plus, they've gotten out and developed tours on bikes, and they include brunches at some of these restaurants. I know that we've got 1 or 2 restaurants locally that may focus on Gullah foods, but the folks down south of us are working real hard to market those kinds of economic benefits. All right, so going to the north end of our Greenway, Blueway starts up in Navassa, and I will say that this is the inspiration for a lot of the work that we've been doing here lately. Navassa is working on a heritage trail, which would be the on-ramp for our trail. It's roughly 10 miles. It includes water access, historical stops. They're looking at developing 10 to 15 parks along the route. Right now they have 2 of them. And the surfaces again would be natural paths, boardwalks where they were going through are on the fringes of our waterways, bridges, and a converted rails to trails. Really impressive group. In this, there is the Reeves Chapel restoration. I don't know how many of you have heard about this, but the Reeves Chapel was built by former enslaved individuals. It was standing about a mile from where it currently sits on Cedar Hill Road. It was in pretty bad shape. We've got a host of folks, including North Carolina Coastal Land Trust, the Orton Foundation, who have come in, along with Wilmington's Historic Society, to put some money in a pot and help them, first of all, get it stable and then start the restoration process of this. There's also going to be an African American museum proposed up there. There's going to be the Mose Cultural Heritage Center on a formerly used Superfund site. The gosh, there's so many things up there. I'm trying to remember them all. They have a few historic cemeteries up there as well. Leland is finishing up their 2045 planning for generations. They have a new Sturgeon's Park planned for that, which will connect directly into our Greenway, Blueway. They are now building multi-use paths around their town hall and are going to upgrade their Founders Park, which is in the same town hall area. Sturgeon Park will provide not only recreational features there at the park, but also water access for canoes and kayaks as well to Sturgeon Creek. Belleville, same thing. These folks are out there developing multi-use paths. I mentioned earlier about the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. Belleville is trying to extend their boardwalk to get really close to maybe some potential link. Of course, the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge replacement will take place a few years down the road, but they're planning for that right now. The NCDOT has got a plan in the 2045 update to widen 4 miles of 133 from Belleville down to, mine just locked up, 4 miles down the road to Mallory Creek. And that will include a 10-foot multi-use path. That is right out of their plan. And a cross section will look like this. It'll be 10-foot wide. And like I said, we'll go a little bit more than 4 miles down, which will start the multi-use path on its way down to Southport. And there's more. Brunswick County is working on their comprehensive land use plan and Parks and Recreation Master Plan, of which they've got a trail system out there that's countywide. And we are going to work with Brunswick County to bring as many of those trails connections into our Greenway Blueway effort. Southport is also working with Cape Fear Council of Governments and the Rural Planning Organization. They're looking at a 17-mile run up NC 211 to US 17 for a Greenway as well. So there's a lot of good things going on in Brunswick County. The important part of all of this, again, for us, is to preserve, protect, and celebrate the Gullah Geechee culture. All of these historic and cultural important points along the way that we're attempting to capture, I consider those as pearls. And what our trail will do will string all of those pearls together. And I'll explain how we're going to do that here in a little bit. When we started this in February of 2020, I started to reach out to various towns, cities, regional governmental agencies, nonprofits. I went to the federal government, state government, and to a T, everyone said, yep, go ahead, Brayton, run with it. And so I did. And I had no idea that it was going to take off as well as it has in terms of local interest. These are all the people that have signed on in one form or another, either letters of interest or resolutions of support, or, and this is something that was new to me about 8 months ago, I had never written a grant for money. And so I started writing grants and had some really good success. And so on here as well as we've got some of the folks that have donated, pledged monies to help us move along. Z. Smith Reynolds, Terry Benji Foundation, which is a great group of folks that are partners with us, Brunswick Electric, Duke Energy, and right up on the other one, Cape Fear River Watch. You folks are kind enough to send us a letter of support, and we find ourselves linking up with you folks in different venues, and that's kind of exciting because we're all focused in the same direction, trying to do the same great things for our area. In March of 2021, the National Park Service accepted our grant for technical assistance. It's a multi-year support function that the National Park Service offers every year to different communities across the country. They now are servicing somewhere with technical assistance about 240 communities across the country. And I have worked with these folks before, and I can tell you that they bring not only technical expertise, but national recognition to our area. I'm really excited that they are coming on board. Our grant application actually scored the second highest that they've ever had in the Southeast region. So I'm really proud that we were able to put that effort together. This particular picture is of our president, Carl Parker, with Anita Singleton Prather. She's a storyteller out of South Carolina. This was done at the Plein Air Art Festival on Juneteenth in Southport. So our next steps, we continue to collaborate with our friends and partners like yourselves, your organization. As I said, we got the technical assistance grant from the Park Service. The next big steps, we're kind of stepping out now and getting a little bit larger in our group. We're going to start working with our folks over at Eagles Island, the task force over there, who have joined with us in this effort. We're going to develop an economic benefit analysis report. We're in the process of developing that scope. We're talking to NC State folks. So more to come on that. And I'm thinking that probably UNCW and some of our local talent can also participate in that, but we're in the beginning stages of that. We continue to write grants. We need to develop a website. This is one thing that we haven't done yet. And we've got some money in the budget to do that. It's just finding the right group of people who have the capability to help us out on that. And of course, a Facebook page and developing a Friends of group. These are things that are right in front of us and things that we've got to accomplish here in the near future. Most importantly is to build an army of supporters. And we continue to develop that with many of the folks that have listened to our presentation and understand how important it is to preserve these traditions, these cultures, the history for our area. I emphasize that we are one of the fastest growing areas in the country, and many of these important pearls, if you will disappear if we don't get out and protect them. This is something important for our children, and their children, generations to come, to understand who the people were here, not only the Gullah Geechee, but everyone else, and what they stood for in their connection to our valuable Lower Cape Fear River resource. I mentioned that we were going to do an economic impact study. This will marry into what the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor folks have done on marketing heritage tourism, and also a tourism plan that was developed by George Beatty, who runs the Rice Festival here in Brunswick County, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. He developed a tourism development business plan. And then I would be remiss if I didn't point out the Eagles Island Nature Park plan. If you all haven't seen this, I hope you have. This is an amazing, amazing document that was just released a few weeks ago. It's both in digital and book form. I think they're charging a little bit for the book because it's so expensive to produce, but you can get it in digital form. What a wonderful work of both architecture, landscape architecture, planning, conservation. I can't say enough about the work that they did on that. So here's where we're at. 2020, January, February timeframe, we had an idea. We started sharing that idea and gaining support. Right now, we are at the concept planning stage where we're going to engage every one of our communities along this Greenway, Blueway, to have our citizens develop what that vision should be for this project. And so we haven't yet started that. We had a kickoff meeting with the National Park Service on October 25th. On October 24th, we actually, our friends on WMPO had a bike ride from Navassa to Belleville and back to celebrate the Heritage Trail. Enormously successful. Well, I mean, we could have probably put 200 people on bicycles out there, except that would have been a little bit tough to manage, but it was well received, and we're excited about that. Another important thing that's happening, I mentioned to you the East Coast Greenway becoming a state trail. That's the bill that set that in motion. But House Bill 55-4 designated North Carolina as the year of the trail, to celebrate the year of the trail. And so one of the things that we'd like to include somehow, and we haven't gotten there yet, is how we could celebrate here in our local Tri-County area. We have trails out there that we certainly can come up with some way to celebrate this. I can tell you that there are other counties, other NGOs in North Carolina that are already planning events. I would like to see something happen here, and I'm sure that at least for our project, we'll be able to make something happen, especially in light of having the National Park Service as part of our team, and the East Coast Greenway as part of our team. They are partners with us. As I mentioned to you, on October 25th, the National Park Service came in. We gave them a quick tour, introduced them to local elected officials and some of our nonprofit folks. Cape Fear cyclists were over there. Eagles Island Task Force members came in, and we actually got to go and meet everyone from Navassa all the way down to Southport. And I can tell you, the folks in Southport were really high energy. We really appreciated every one of their elected officials came out to say hello and talk about the importance of this effort. So this is sort of a visioning thing. The left picture was a group of Gullah Geechee bike riders that came out of Georgia. They came and rode here in Wilmington in 2016. And what we're saying in our pictures on the right side and center, we're ready and waiting as well. That's the group of the 100 bicyclists up in Navassa just before they launched. The picture in the center, lower center, on the right is Bill Lane from the National Park Service. The gal in the center is the brand new executive director of the Gullah Geechee Heritage Foundation. And the guy on the left who's sitting in a hole is me. I'm not really that short. That was a joke. So I want you to, if you don't mind, save a date. In March 4th and 5th, we're going to have the North Carolina Rice Festival again. We had a COVID delayed celebration that was rescheduled from last year to this year. And I think it's going to be a fun couple of days. So put that on your calendar. In terms of the Gullah Geechee, if you have more interest in learning more about them, there's a great book that's out there, The Atlas of Transatlantic Slave Trade. And then the big book of the Cape Fear River. If you haven't seen it, it's a pretty good document. And then I have some web links. If you want to go to the Corridor Foundation itself, that's there. And then there are a few really good videos. One that I think is just wonderful. It's about 14 minutes. Ron Days is a descendant of Gullah Geechee, and he just tells a wonderful story on TEDx. Then I would be remiss if I didn't put out there all of the people who have supported us thus far. I'm really excited, and sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with the amount of help that we've received from these different groups, little pushes in the back, pointing us in the right direction. It's really been exciting. And I think that with what the communities are doing out there, what we're folding into is a great opportunity, as I said, to preserve, protect, and celebrate the Gullah Geechee culture. I know I may have missed stuff. There's a lot of things going on, but I'm ready to take questions from anyone. And I see there's something in the chat. Oh yeah, okay. Dana, is
Yes, sir.
okay? And Natalie, right? Blair put out a note that Natalie, both Ron and Natalie team up, and they teamed up in 2020, I believe, at the Rice Festival, and they were very entertaining. So I'm open to answering any questions that you all may have. I know I've rambled on here a lot, but there's a lot that's going on. Like I said, we're getting ready to do a lot of work. I've gotten to the point where I've had to hire a consultant, a local gal, Adrian Harrington, to help me out, because it's just gotten, it's gotten really busy quick, especially with the National Park Service coming on board.
Well, Brayton, let me ask you to unshare so that so that we can kind of communicate better, seeing each other. First of all, thank you so much. I'm always so inspired. You know, we get kind of lost in our own little circle of what we're doing and don't realize how much other people are doing in the community. And so thank you so much to you and everyone working on this, and for that wonderful presentation. So I'm going to, let everyone unmute themselves. If you'd like to ask a question, feel free to do so, and we'll go from there.
And while they're doing that, I also want to mention, you talked about PFAS, PFOA. Our branch, when I joined the branch in 2017, I realized that they were really hurting for environmental justice support. And one of our points of attack has been ChemRs and the pollution that they contribute. It's a major impact to those of our community that can ill afford to have expensive water treatment to take care of cleaning up our water. So in that regard, we work hand in hand with organizations like yourself to make sure that we can have clean, affordable water in our area.
Thank you. It's all hands on deck against ChemWars and other industry polluters like that. So Frederick Bingham asked a question in the chat. I'll go ahead and read for you. I've been hearing about possible large developments in the works on Eagles Island. Is that area preserved? Is there any protection for the old plantations you spoke of?
Two good questions. The development is actually located on Peters Point, which is not on Eagles Island itself. I'll be very candid with you. As a former Corps of Engineers project manager, I'm very familiar with flooding and global warming, and that is going to be a disaster waiting to happen. There is nothing but bad omens pointing towards that development. So I'll leave it there, but I will say that there are other folks who are looking at Peters Point and wondering whether or not it can be preserved or conserved, if you will, as a natural area. But that is going to take some money. And right now, as I understand it, it's terribly overpriced, what's the term we use in real estate? Overappraised. So it's going to be a challenge, but that it's just, if they develop, it'll be a disaster waiting to happen. Now, in terms of the old plantations, this is interesting. I've done quite a bit of research on the south end of Eagles Island, where the Corps of Engineers has their current waste dredged spoil site. And there were 3 plantations down there going back in history. They no longer exist. My fear is the Corps of Engineers or somebody just pretty much plowed them under. This was before we got into the important federal acts that were established to preserve and protect, the NEPA activities. So they're gone. But what still exists to this day, and this is part of the effort on the north end of Eagles Island, the Eagles Island Task Force has identified many of the old channels that were developed for the purpose of growing rice. Actually, the northern end of Eagles Island was a very productive rice growing area. The enslaved people were very clever in managing the freshwater flows that came down the Cape Fear River. So it was far more productive than those that were on either the Brunswick County or New Hanover County side of the river, mainly because those were exposed to drought conditions from time to time. So what's being protected, or what we're trying to protect, is those old channels. But the reason we're trying to protect those is because they turn out to be excellent places for nurseries for our fishes and shellfish. To this day, they do provide excellent opportunity for our fisheries to reproduce in that area. So again, this is one of those areas that really deserve our full attention to preserve and protect. And I think the Eagles Island Task Force has really hit the nail on the head. Any other questions? Roger, I haven't seen Roger's presentation. What did he talk about?
Highly
Okay.
recommend.
Okay,
He talked
got it.
about, yeah, Eagles Island. He did a really great, you know, he did the history, you know, and the ecology, and then he talked about, you know, the Eagles Island, you know, the prior group and then the current group and kind of thoughts of what might come. So I provided that link in the chat for folks who want to find all of our First Saturday seminars. You can either go to our website, capefairriverwatch.org, or just type in Google YouTube Cape Fear River Watch, and you'll find our site, and you can see everything on there. And there is also the Eagles Island, not the task force, but the folks that were working prior on Eagles Island. I did support them in getting their website kind of activated, and so that was called the Eagles Island Coalition. I'm going to put that website in here too, because it does have a lot of links of some great presentations and sort of history and ecology of Eagles Island if you're interested in that.
And so to add on to that, Dana, there's a move underfoot to change the designation of the coalition to the task force. I know that Lloyd and Evan are working on that as we speak, so that we'll be reconstituting this whole thing, this whole effort to this new vision that they've got for the area. And again, that's an exciting opportunity. And the minute I sat down with this gang, I realized how important their work was. And because our trail actually spans over the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge and connects into Wilmington, it was an easy way to sweep them in to our whole Greenway Blueway effort. So it's really kind of exciting to have that kind of team. And it's a very big team. I was impressed by the numbers of people who have come in and joined in that task force effort.
Any other questions for Brayton?
I have a question. What kind of, do you have a sense at this point of what percentage of the trail, both the Blueway and the Greenway, will be like adjacent to development? Is it along the road? And like which parts are going to be like inside of a park or something where you're not kind of adjacent to something? And then the same, are you going past private homes? Or are you going past parks on the waterway? Like what do you get to connect to?
That's a great question too. If you take a look at the route that we're proposing, a number of the miles go along state routes. State routes have, I'll just say it this way, generous right-of-way. And so we're going to work hard with our NCDOT people to, where we can, put the trail along those highways, but off the highways, not in the highway. State Route 133 is one example where we do not want to have our citizens having to duke it out with the heavy travel that goes along. And it's going to get worse as time goes on. So we want to set this land aside. But your question also about going into private property or developments. Indeed, in Navassa, Barnes Sutton has been working with developers to set aside easements where you could weave trails through good areas of those developments that would stand as part of the trail or a spur to the trail. And then when we were on tour on the 25th with the National Park Service, we actually discovered another opportunity in Leland where we might be able to weave a trail that would go along the river as well. Going down to from Belleville down to Southport, that probably, this is going to be a guess right now because we haven't worked with the citizens or the county on exact location, that might go along the state route. Because there is a lot of right of way. It's about 100-foot right of way. The road takes about 35 feet of it now. And so there's plenty of room on either side. When we get down to Orton Plantation, we may be working with the Orton folks to see if we can acquire a little bit of land that would lead into Fort Anderson. And I'd be remiss to talk about my buddy, Jim McKee at Fort Anderson, great historian of the area, but we're going to take a look and see what we can do. I know that Orton right now is shut down. I think they're working on some issues of natural resource protection. At least that's what they explained to me. So they're shut down right now in terms of visitor participation. But that's the plan. That's the plan. And it's going to be community based. So it's going to be what the community wants. Not we're not dictating any routes. We're just suggesting that ours will overlay, as I said, to preserve, protect, and celebrate the history of the Gullah Geechee. Great question, though. Any other questions? All quiet.
Hey, Brayton, I did get a chat comment that says it would be great to get a list of parks that the trail connects to, knowing Moores Creek is one, but how beneficial it would be economically to fold in as many parks as possible. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Super question. As we develop our website, I don't know if you're familiar with the Carolina Thread Trail. Carolina Thread Trail, and I don't have a link to it handy here. They did an outstanding job to pinpoint where their important cultural, historic features are, so that when people ride their bikes or hike, they could go and visit, and you could actually click one of those points and it would tell you what was in that particular site. We're going to do something similar to that. We haven't started it yet, but like I said, I'm looking for a website developer who's going to be clever enough to replicate something in that order so we can get all of these important sites, and we've been collecting them, but we need to get them out in a digital format so that people can see the map before they come to visit. And if they decide to go out on their own right now, for instance, like if you want to go to Reeves Chapel, you could go to the map, hit the link, and it would tell you exactly what's going on, the history of Reeves Chapel, and what they're currently doing. So that's a plan afoot. Haven't gotten there yet, but we are going to try to make a first-class website for people coming in wanting to learn more about our area. And it would include Wilmington as well.
So we have another question in the chat. Will the community be maintaining the trail?
I would say that in the cases of, let's say, Navassa, Leland, Belleville, Southport, that would be community-based maintenance. There may be some, as we develop our alliance, we might be able to get a larger group, such as you find in Buncombe County. They have friends that go out and actually, friends of the trail, that actually go out and help maintain the trails. The cost of maintaining the trails, if it's on state property, I think they're going to have to build that into their life cycle for maintaining that entire right of way. But we haven't gotten to that stage yet on those costs. That's coming. Again, we're working with NC State and their landscape and architecture group, the same people that did the Eagles Island report. We're going to be working with them to see if they want to come on board, maybe in collaboration with UNCW, and help us figure out some of these challenging questions. And that is a great question. But locally, it would be the communities. Will it be part of the East Coast Greenway? No. There's no. It, technically, the answer to your question, will it be part of the East Coast Greenway? I don't think we're going to get the East Coast Greenway designation for our Greenway Blueway, but it certainly will link into it. I have no problems being affiliated closely with them, but I don't think we're gonna get that. But there's another opportunity, and that would be having our trail be designated as a state trail, state historic trail. And that's something that is in our to-do list. And it's going to take, first of all, getting the Greenway Blueway established and up and running, and then get the legislative support to do that. So yeah, we could probably have two parallel trails, both one historic and the other one the East Coast Greenway State Trail. So great opportunity.
Thank you. I have a question. How much involvement is there from the Gullah Geechee community themselves, the descendants?
In Navassa, we've got descendants working on the Reeves Chapel restoration, the Mose Center, the African American Heritage Museum, the Rice Festival. And then beyond that, it's the Gullah Geechee Heritage Foundation. The members, we've got a board of chairmen who sit on that board who are here locally. But I'm going to say that we've got a way to go. A lot of the folks that are descendants have weighed in. We've got them in the NAACP. They've weighed in and they're doing things now. But I think what we need to do too is reach out into the churches where a lot of these folks actually, that's where they congregate. And so as we reach out to the communities, reach out to the churches, I'm sure that we're going to see a larger group form that have those roots. And I will say this, a lot of the folks that I talk to don't really know if they're Gullah related. And so there's that challenge of whether or not they are Gullah related. But I'm going to tell you, with our history as Homo sapiens, and this may be surprising to some, but we all go back to Africa. So I try to encourage folks to think, hey, look, we all come from a common mother in the Kalahari Desert in Africa. So we're all related in some form. And so sometimes that breaks the ice in our discussions. And we get people who want to know more from the African American community. We got good support, but we can do better.
Thank you so much. Anybody else have any questions? I am keeping an eye on Facebook and folks are on there and watching, but no questions there either. Okay, well, thank you so much, Brayton. And as I said this, and as you offered, so thank you so much. We do save these presentations. After the presentation, we include a link to it in our follow-up e-news. And with that, I'm also going to put some of these links that you provided and that some of the folks in the chat have provided, for instance, to the booklet that you mentioned and things like that. So people can just kind of click from the e-news, which is also, secret plug to get on the e-news, everyone. And so with that, I want to thank Brayton and everybody for coming, and I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and great to see everyone.
Well, thank you very much. And as I said, things change quickly in our world on this project. And so we'll try to keep you folks up to date as best as we can when good things happen.
Thank you so much. All right, goodbye, everybody.